On the morning of December 4th, 1872, a merchant ship slowly emerged from the thick fog covering the Atlantic Ocean. From a distance, she appeared completely ordinary. Yet within minutes, the crew of another vessel would realize they were about to encounter one of the most fascinating maritime mysteries in history. As they approached, an uneasy feeling began to grow. The sails were still raised, and the wind continued to push the ship silently across the water. But there was no one at the helm. Not a single voice echoed across the deck. The only sounds breaking the silence were the wind and the waves crashing against the hull. Then came the first disturbing clue. The ship's only lifeboat was missing. If the crew had truly abandoned the vessel, why would they leave behind a ship that was still seaworthy, still carrying its valuable cargo, and perfectly capable of completing its voyage? As they stepped inside, the mystery became even more unsettling. Captain Benjamin Briggs's cabin was remarkably clean and orderly. Charts were spread neatly across the table. Navigation instruments remained exactly where they belonged. Clothing, money, and personal belongings had all been left untouched. Everything suggested that those aboard had stepped away only moments before. Captain Benjamin Briggs had not made the journey alone. Accompanying him were his wife, Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, and 7 experienced crew members. Yet not the slightest trace remained of the 10 people who had departed from New York together. To understand how an experienced captain and his entire crew could disappear without leaving a single clue, we have to go back a few weeks, to the day the Mary Celeste departed New York Harbor. As investigators searched below deck, they carefully examined the cargo hold. Most of the barrels of industrial alcohol were still securely in place. Only a few were found empty. This led some investigators to believe that alcohol fumes may have triggered panic among the crew. Yet there was no evidence of an explosion or fire anywhere on the ship. One of the most important pieces of evidence was the captain's logbook. Its final entry was dated November 25th. After that, the pages fell completely silent. There was no distress signal, no request for help, and not a single word explaining why the ship had been abandoned. Once the Mary Celeste reached shore, an official investigation began immediately. Over the years, countless theories emerged, ranging from pirate attacks and mutiny to insurance fraud, violent storms, and even massive waterspouts. Yet while each theory answered some questions, it also created even bigger ones. None could explain why such an experienced captain would abandon a ship that was still perfectly capable of sailing. More than 150 years have passed since that mysterious voyage. Even today, historians and maritime experts continue searching for answers. Some believe the crew was overcome by sudden panic, while others argue that an extraordinary natural event forced them to leave the ship. But to this day, no theory has successfully explained all of the evidence. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how the Mary Celeste survived, but how the 10 people aboard disappeared forever without leaving behind a single confirmed trace. More than a century and a half later, the Mary Celeste remains far more than an abandoned ship drifting across the Atlantic. It endures as one of history's greatest unsolved maritime mysteries. When the voyage began in November 1872, everything appeared perfectly routine. The sea was calm, the weather was favorable, and the Mary Celeste was carrying more than 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol bound for Genoa, Italy. Nothing in the captain's log suggested that danger was anywhere on the horizon. Then, something happened. What exactly took place has never been known. Whatever unfolded in the middle of the Atlantic left behind no witnesses and no survivors to tell the story. Nearly a month later, Captain David Morehouse of the merchant ship Dei Gratia spotted a brigantine drifting strangely on the horizon. Raising his spyglass, he quickly noticed that the vessel wasn't responding to any signals. There was no one on deck. Yet the ship wasn't sinking. It simply continued drifting silently across the middle of the Atlantic, as though it had been abandoned only moments before. The only way to understand what had happened was to board the vessel. Morehouse sent an inspection party across. The sailors expected to find injured crew members or evidence of a terrible disaster. Instead, they were met with something even more unsettling. The ship was completely deserted. Although the sails had suffered some damage, they were still functional. Food and fresh drinking water remained on board. personal belongings had been left undisturbed. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, and no bodies. Only the chilling silence left behind by 10 people who had seemingly vanished without a trace.